John Wetzel, CEO of Phronema Justice Strategies, retired Secretary of Corrections from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, longest serving Secretary of Corrections in the history of Pennsylvania. I'm here with my Vice President. Maddie, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Madeline McPherson. I'm the Vice President of Policy, Research, and Innovation for Phronema Justice Strategies. I'm a former Pennsylvania Department of Corrections policy official and have also worked in legislative affairs in Washington, D.C.
And we're here to talk about staff wellness. And frankly, it's an area where when I look back on my career, I didn't do enough. And so we're really here to create a new conversation and set a new tone for our brave staff who work in corrections and who deserve to have a life outside of corrections. When we say correctional officer, what we're really saying is a mom, a dad, a parent, a coach, a Sunday school teacher, and we should never put our staff, our most valuable resource, in a position where what we ask them to do puts them at a deficit for the rest of their life. And so we have a plan.
Hi, my name is Marty Gallagher. I've been in the strength and conditioning game for 61 years. I started resistance training in 1961. I was 11 years old. Skinny suburban kid, typical. Initially, again, I was, as young kids are, young boys, young alpha boys, I was comic books, superheroes, Norse mythology, Greek mythology, always the superhero mythos. So that's what I strove for. By the time I was 17, I had fallen in with adult lifters, and I won my first national championship at age 17, Teenage National Olympic Weightlifting Championship. I pressed 275, snatched 235, clean and jerk 315. And I weighed 195. At that point, I was off onto my Olympic lifting career. In 1972, they eliminated the press, the overhead press, which is one of the three lifts. That was my best lift. So at that point, I shifted from Olympic lifting into powerlifting, which is a fairly new sport. I shifted to coaching. For the next 10 years, I coached. I started coaching locally, coached Mark Chalet to his world championship. Young fella named Kirk Karwoski I took on. Kirk ended up as a Hall of Fame lifter, 6-time world champion, 7-time national champion, arguably the greatest squatter in the history of powerlifting. We raised Kirk from the time he was 16 years old. That's the kind of champions that we were creating on a regular, consistent basis. I was asked by Black's Gym to coach them nationally. I coached them to 5 national championships in 3 different federations. I was asked by the United States Federation to coach the world team. I went to Örebro, Sweden in 1991, coached the United States team. We won the world championships. I'm also a writer. I've been a full-time professional writer since 1978. I've had 6 books published. I've had over 1,000 articles published. For 4 years, I was the fitness columnist for the Washington Post. I posted 232 columns for the Post. So my whole life has been immersed into this strategy of radical physical transformation.
Everybody, I'm Jim Steele. Basically, I've spent my whole life dedicated to being a strength coach. I got my degree in kinesiology at Gardner-Webb University in North Carolina. I got my master's in post-secondary education at Salisbury State University. After that, I started coaching. I coached for 30 years. 20 of those were as a head strength coach and assistant strength coach at the University of Pennsylvania. Coached thousands of athletes. What I like best about coaching is to see somebody go from a zero to a hero. And what I mean by that is to get someone who may be lacking in confidence or lacking in strength, both physically and mentally. And as you start to train them, you start to see them develop as a person. And really, strength training and everything around it, the culture of it, is all about self-improvement, right? So to see that happen, and to see that happen with thousands of kids or thousands of athletes and all, is so rewarding. I think I'm a born teacher. My father was a professor. My mom was an English teacher. I just have that inner drive to teach and to give everything that I've learned to people, and to see them develop it motivates me to see that happen also. I think the best thing about strength training is that you can have no experience. You can never have a bar on your back and done a squat or picked up a deadlift. And the skills are not tremendously hard to learn, but they're tremendously rewarding. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, it is tough. Everything that you do that's worthwhile is gonna be tough. You're gonna have to go through some arduous times when you're training. You're gonna be sore, you're gonna be tired. But the rewards as far as strength, vitality, overall fitness, and confidence, you can't beat that. What we wanna do is create the same type of body and mind that we've done with the Tier 1 guys. We wanna make you guys bulletproof. We wanna create you a suit of armor and give you the confidence to handle any situation that you can, and when your life depends.
Hi, my name is Jason Henderson. I'm a retired Navy SEAL Master Chief. I served for 30 years, at majority of that time at the Tier 1 level. We worked directly for the President, where I did hostage rescue missions and high-level target takedowns. We take a lot of the techniques and tactics and procedures that we learned while in the military and on the most stressful environments imaginable, and we take it to you guys to increase your human potential. We work on a multidisciplinary approach towards optimization, both mentally, physically, and spiritually coming more from the energetic level. I have a security company on the outside where I do consulting, and I have a nonprofit where I work in training law enforcement in cities that have reallocated funds or don't get the proper training they need to de-escalate force properly. When I first retired from the military in 2020, there was riots going on. The country was in turmoil. A lot of people were angry at overuse of force. I learned that myself on the battlefield, that using a maximum amount of force isn't always the best way to get things done. That de-escalation of force ended up being more effective in the end. So we came up with a system of defensive tactics. I started training law enforcement, and then that spread out to other people in the first responders, security people at hospitals, universities, and also in the prison system, that are looking for an effective way to control somebody, de-escalate the situation, not just physically, but also mentally, where I'm talking to them, I'm calming them down, I'm controlling my own stress, controlling my own emotional intelligence, and teaching longevity to these different guardians so that they can maintain this job for a long period of time. I hope you get a lot out of this course, and I hope it'll transcend not just in your day-to-day job at work, but also in your home life, and make you a better over-rounded human being. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christian Conti. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I'm a level 5 anger management specialist. I've spent nearly 25 years specializing in working with people convicted of violent crimes. And I train corrections staff on how to de-escalate and how to communicate more effectively. Look, when I was young, my father told me, what you anticipate is not a problem. What he meant by that, what he taught me, was the more prepared I am for the inevitable obstacles that life brings, the better chance I have to meet those obstacles effectively. When it comes to corrections, look, let's be honest, most people who aren't in corrections can rarely understand what you do on a day-to-day basis. You work with people who have done sometimes unspeakable things to others, and you're charged with the care, custody, and control of those people. And at times, the job can be immensely stressful, not to mention the interactions with your colleagues, with your peers. And then you take that stress home to family. And think about when you're working overtime, how much more stress that brings. So again, think about this. In life, if you want to be good at something, what do? You got to practice. We master what we practice. If we look at the best fighters in all the world, no matter if they are a champion level fighter, they still train for upcoming events. And when it comes to working in corrections, it's so important to train mentally, physically, spiritually, to be prepared to handle everything that corrections throws at you. Tune in to what is about to be something absolutely transformative. For the first time, probably in your entire career, you have a group of people saying, look, you matter, and taking care of yourself so that you're ready to take on the incredible stressors that corrections brings. That's what this is all about.
Jason, you would talk to us about sleep discipline and
Sure.
Kind of some of the work you've done around and how these guys who are or ladies who are doing this difficult stuff, and you go home and everything's still firing, right? You're still thinking about what happened and what you did and this and that. So you want to talk to us a little bit about that, and then Dot, maybe you can follow up with that.
Yeah, we put so much effort into learning how to train physically or even from a psychological standpoint, but we don't put any effort into our sleep hygiene and our recovery. So a big thing for me is when I'd be launching out on operations night after night, I had to get as much recovery as I could as possible so that the next day I could be firing on all four cylinders again. And I needed to have a lot of clarity. I needed to maximize the oxygen that was going to my brain. I needed to get my body as calm and relaxed as I possibly could. So when I would go out, I could handle those critical thinking, those high threats type of situations at the best of my ability. Otherwise, if you're constantly deprived of sleep, you're physically run down, you're under all this stress and all this pressure that's coming down on you, you're not recovered possibly or at your best, and you're not going to make the best decisions when those high threats come down the panel.
I was going to have as much time as I need to. So talk to us about
I
that.
actually just talked to a corrections officer who said, look, I only have a limited amount of time just to even get home. Then I'm on the phone, I'm into arguments. And he said, so I barely am getting any time. The number one thing I hear officers say all the time is, I can't turn my mind off, Doc. I'm like, well, great, that means you're alive. It's not about turning your mind off. It's about having some sense of mental control over what is going on in your mind. That's why the key thing that we teach people is how to take control of that narrative. That's self-talk. The more we use these exaggerated words like everybody always, we just produce more stress. And it's already stressful enough. I mean, we're dealing with the most realistic stress. And then to add self-talk that makes it it magnifies it. So one of the things we do is we try to teach people to be accurate with their self-talk, because my goodness, does that change things.
So give me, I need a practical strategy. What's different about what we're doing is these guys get these trainings, and it's this 1,000-level stuff from people who are wearing fancy suits and all this stuff. But I literally just worked a double shift. I had 3 really screwed up situations happen, and there was a moment there where I wasn't sure if I was going to make it home or not.
Yeah, how do you wind down?
And now I got to go home and wind down.
Well, being proactive is number one. Setting a plan. Like every night when I go to bed, I have an hour that I have a build-up, right? I get off my electronic device, I get off my phone, I get off anything. I go old school and read a paper book. I put my phone across the room, so when the alarm goes off in the morning, I have to get up out of bed and go. So now it sets my morning up. Mm-hmm. When I'm laying in bed, you can't stop the monkey mind from jumping around, right? It's coming in. You got bills and stress and family issues and all the other things, work and everything else that comes into your brain that's going to consume your time that you should be sleeping. I just focus only on what my morning routine is going to be, and that's usually my workout. I always work out in the morning. I always set the tone of my day based off of how my workout in the morning goes.
Intense exercise is the greatest stress reliever known to man, greatest natural stress reliever known to man. If you are able to generate intensity of sufficient magnitude, the conscious mind is short-circuited. It's like throwing a bucket of water on a computer.
From a workout, food, rest, sleep standpoint, and just whoever wants to jump in first, just kind of, Doc, you.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that I think Hendo hit on is he talked about this concept monkey mind. So that means our mind, like a monkey jumping from this tree to that tree. So our thoughts are dictated by whatever comes up. And the challenge with that is when we're in that space, we're allowing the outside world to determine what's going on within us. And so he hit on the most important point, which is to focus. So what the hands-on thing that everyone out there that you can do is begin to direct your own focus. And that can be done with a phrase. You can start to make sure, look, if we all down 3 energy drinks right now, our hearts would race, would start to mimic anxiety. And then our minds would want to race to make up a story to match our body. So think about this. They're coming home from work and they're still amped up. You're vibing on all this stress. And now your mind is trying to make sense out of that. So you're going, well, I must be having problems at home. I must be having, I didn't resolve this problem at work. And so you come back to that breath. You come back to that focus. And that's how you can be intentional. And intentionality, it makes all the difference in the world. And that's what you're talking about. You're saying, give us a strategy for this 8 hours. Be intentional.
Marty, how would you tell your training? You do online training for John Q. Public, right? You got UPS drivers to correct. I mean, when I was a county warden, right? I ran a couple 100-bed county jail in South Central PA. Right, and I came to Marty Gallagher, read his book, Purposeful Primitive, and really wanted to live a healthier life, you know. So Marty,
came to the wrong house.
I did come to the wrong house, fair enough. But you help people like our correctional staff in Philadelphia who are I just worked 2 16-hour shifts, Marty. You're my trainer. You tell me I need to sleep. You tell me I need to calm down. How the hell can I do that? I broke up 3 fights. I cut somebody down who just tried to frickin' hang themselves. And I, by the way, on the way out, I checked my phone and there's a new article about how horrible all our staff are who are literally trying to keep people alive who they say they care about. So how the hell am I going to sleep tonight, Marty?
Well, the alternative is you're going to get drunk. Okay, you can't do that. We can't go to chemicals. We got to stop that. Okay, that's the first thing. Number one, we can't anesthetize ourselves, because if you anesthetize yourself, you're not going to work out. You're not going to train. I suggest that you get some sort of physical activity in. That's what I do. That's what we do. That's part of our lives. If it's not part of your life, you need to.
I just work 16 hours. What literally can
Well,
I
and
do?
That's the beauty of what we do.
Yeah.
It's, if you have 10 minutes, we can give you a workout for 10
So
minutes.
what the hell can I do in 10 minutes? I just worked
John,
16
I-
hours. My life sucks. I'm still sweaty.
John, I can get through 4 sets of squats in 15 minutes and kick my own ass. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's
So
the
can
value
you.
of that?
Huh?
But what's the why would I go home and squat? I could do.
Because
Listen,
it's
I could
gonna
do 3
short
shots.
circuit- it's
I could do
gonna
3
short-
shots of Maker Mark.
John, it's going to short circuit that monkey mind. Okay, you will not be thinking about all that stuff after you finish tying into a limit set.
So importantly, to piggyback off of what Marty's mentioning about meditation, there's something in the brain called the default mode network. And research is showing that when you meditate, somebody who meditates as long as Marty has, if we were to scan his brain today, that center is going to be much quieter. Right. And that center is responsible for rumination, for saying, speaking to yourself the way that we're talking about over and over and over again. That thing that you got into today during your shift that you can't get out of your head. If you are a practiced meditator, for example, you're much more able to control that voice and quiet it, whether you're actively meditating or for hours afterward.
Doesn't mean you're going to shut your brain off. You don't have to, but it quiets it down.
Okay.
And also, I think we have the stigma of meditation where we're sitting in some kind of lotus position, calling out to the heavens or whatever. For me, meditating is just, I can meditate while I'm driving my car.
Yeah.
I'm just breathing and I'm relaxing. I never road rage because I'm listening to Dean Martin. You can't get angry when Dean Martin or Frank Sinatra or some jazz is playing. The whole world can be on fire around me. And I'm breathing, I'm calm, I'm relaxed, and I'm just focusing on what's my task. My task is to get from point A to point B as calm as possible, recover my body as much as possible, relax, let the world spin around me, and be as calm as I possibly can. It's no different when I'm doing that or I'm riding on a helicopter going onto the battlefield. I have to be as calm and relaxed and recovered at every opportunity that I have to recover, I have to take it.
And he talks about when he goes on a mission, his meditation is contingencies.
That's right. I think of everything bad that can happen, and I let it play out how I'm going to react to it.
There is no room to focus on anything else. When you're under an intense, so if I say to you, hey, you have to do 80% of your 1 rep max today for as many as you can. Now, that's a balls out training session. I can't be thinking what happened at work. I can't be thinking about my problems that I may have here or there, because when you take that bar off, it all comes right here.
And there's
It's
a
all right there.
chemical reaction. You have endorphins kicking, you've got dopamine kicking, you've got adrenaline kicks off the process. This is part, but it only happens if the workout is of sufficient intensity.
Yeah, and how many times have you got done with one of those workouts and said, what was I worried about again?
Yeah,
Everything levels out. Everything gets better.
We've written articles on
Yeah.
this where we talk about the afterglow.
Yeah.
There's an afterglow.
It sounds like a fantasy for a guy who ran a corrections
What
agency.
people don't understand is it's the intensity of effort that matters. So we've all gone to gyms and seen the guy looking at his phone, or the girl looking in the mirror, and the guy looking at his abs and all this. Well, I'm in and out. I'm 20 sets in 20 minutes. That's my goal. I want to get 20 sets in 20 minutes. Now, I've been lifting for 30 years, so I can plan mine a little better and stuff like this. But for these big exercises, what we focus on, and what Hendo just said, those 4 lifts, those 4 lifts work your whole body. Right now, you want the dessert after the main menu, do some curls, do your abs, do all that stuff, that's fine. But if you want to stay as strong as possible and build that suit of armor, that's really all you need.
Meat and potatoes.
Right? But you have to go in there using the same tactics that Doc and Hendo talked about and Marty talked about with the head. It's got to be planned. You got to be ready for this. You're not just going to walk in haphazardly and do it. It's got to be a plan, and you got to follow the progression. And if you do that, then yes, every time you go in, 5 minutes of warm up, 10 minutes of a squat set, a few down sets or whatever, you're out of there. And now
And the only
you
general
start
rule-
the process of recovery.
The only
Now you
general
do it.
rule for longevity is my technique has to be perfect.
There you go.
And that's where these guys came in.
So just to wrap this up, don't accept the fact that it's just you have to accept all the outcomes and the terrible outcomes that happen in corrections. It doesn't happen. You can make decisions in your life and how you approach it to be proactive and to be proactively healthy so you can be who you want to be outside of corrections.